Taking a high level exercise such as snake and providing different variations is really great when you have the opportunity to teach a student where the movement in a movement is, take the load out and provide assistance. So I'm going to show you some different variations. And when you start watching more of my method tutorials and understanding my flows and the way my mind works and my teaching tutorials on variations, you're going to notice that my main idea is pick a movement, whether it's hip flexion, spine rotation, shoulder extension, whatever, and then try to figure out, well, what is it we're trying to facilitate? And this exercise is hard on most clients' wrist. This exercise is tons of shoulder load, and it can be kind of scary too. So when you get scary in an exercise, it also creates neural tension, which is going to create problems down the road. So if we can take our students before we have them sprint, we want to even jog, even maybe walk, we want to teach them how to crawl first. So by understanding where the movement in snake is our primary focus. So when we talk about snake in traditional sense, let me actually start there. Let me move the box out of the way, just for those of you who want to kind of see what it is I'm talking about. So I'm going to do it on a red. Everybody has a little bit different hand positions, whether it's here. I've seen it done multiple different ways. I've even seen it here and here. So this is where I'm most comfortable, pushing out and getting into that stretch. Bring the leg up. So basically, what snake is, or can be thought of, is a hip flexion exercise. I'm extending the hip and I'm flexing the hip. It's also high level stability for the feet and pelvis. It's high level load for the arms because you're inverted. So if we think about that foot position, which is foot on top, we can take that and we can put that on the ground. And we can take the load of the shoulders out too. And this is what I'm talking about when we understand how it's hip flexion. So here's my narrow arm position. Foot is on the foot bar. And so here I am, hip flexion and extension. Now, for many students, this is going to seem rather rudimentary, and that's okay. They don't have to do anything high level, but just to get the pattern, to understand what it is. I can also take and bring myself out even farther into the movement, dropping into the stretch and pulling back. So when I take the shoulder load out, this is what I call motor patterning. The other thing I find with a high level exercise, not only the shoulder load, but when they go from here to this position, a lot of students hyperextend lower back because they don't have the glute strength to be able to extend the hip and they just hang on their lower back. So by explaining that to a student in a lower level position, in a lower level load, I can say, okay, guys, from here, I'm going to fully extend the hips, really getting the glutes to support me. Abs are in, but I'm not vertically top loaded or horizontally loaded on the spine in that snake. So taking it onto the floor, and I felt work. Let me show you from the back. I'm going to start with my foot out, my hands in position, and I'm going to go into the lower part first, and I'm going to flex hip and back. So when we talk about hip flexion, technically speaking, if we really want to talk about it in this position, it's hip abduction and adduction. So my bad when I said hip flexion. It's really a hip AB and adduction. So with that clear, if I took the leg away and we only looked at the right leg, you can see how I'm adducting and abducting the hip. Then I put the foot on. So the primary exercise is hip abduction and adduction. When I go from here, I'm further adducting the hip, and then going back into adduction. Abduction. And here is where I'm going to add thoracic extension here. So instead of hyperextending and dropping the hips, I'm going to my max hip abduction, and then I'm going to thoracically extend. And there's your snake. Low level. So where's the movement in the movement? I mentioned hip flexion. When I'm in a different position, I can actually get some hip flexion, but on the floor, it's strict ab and abduction. Now, when I take it up, back up, you're going to start seeing how I'm ab and abducting, and then I'm flexing the right hip to lift up. So the primary mover is going to be here. I'm feeling that hip flexion and extension here. I'm feeling my stability, a little bit of lumbar flexion as well. So let's go back here and let's take it from a static position, which would be everything's closed chained, everything's on a solid surface, everything is connected. And I'm going to move it onto the reformer. So therefore, I've got the same position with the feet. And I'm going to open it out, dropping into that stretch. Now, the difference here is where the legs are in relationship to the body. The legs are behind it. So I'm going to hit the reformer, but I'm going to still feel that ab and adduction in that hip. Your hand position is entirely up to you, whether you want it close. I find this to be more stable. I've seen it done both ways. So you choose your hand position. I've seen it done down here. I've just also experienced when I get sweaty that I can slide here. I have much more contact. You can also put a grip pad over this. Let me show you camera side. I'm following the same foot pattern that I am on the foot bar, that I was on the floor in front, that I am here with adding a movement component. Foot is parallel in, other leg is on top, and I'm going to stretch and pull back. So my goal is to make sure that my students understand I'm going from an adducted hip to an abducted hip in the right. And once I'm getting max there, I don't want to push the carriage out much more because I'm going to get ready right here to do thoracic extension. As opposed to dropping the hips, as I mentioned, can be problematic when you're on the foot bar loading lumbar. So there's your starting on the floor, closed chained, solid movement, bringing it to the movable part using the reformer and adding that in. And extension, okay? So there's the progression I would say that is comfortable for me. Even before, because when we talked first and I demonstrated the snake variation where the hands are on the carriage, toes are on the foot bar, there's an inverted component to that, which really is a huge shoulder load. I'm going to take the hand position on the platform, and I'm going to do snake with the toes both on the carriage and then up on the box. So let me show you those two variations. I'm trying not to go too fast on this, but I also don't want to do 100 reps and just kill myself. So I wanted to keep this tutorial 10, 15 minutes. We're already at the 10-minute mark and may go to 20. But it's important to watch it and re-watch it and try all these, because if you're in a studio, now I'm in a progressive studio, meaning I set the standards for teaching. And it's not classical and it's not traditional at all. It's not set as all levels, intermediate, advanced, and beginning. I do have a beginning class, but that's just for people who've never been on the machine. They need to learn the basics. But I can flow in a class, have a high-level student do traditional snake, the classical version that I showed you in the beginning without twist. And I can say, hey, for all of our new students, we're gonna start here. Because I have experienced students from other studios come in and visit me, and I don't know their level. So I may say, hey, instead of just throwing everybody into snake, we're gonna start on the floor. We're gonna pattern with our hands on the foot bar, toes on the ground. Then we're gonna go to hands on the shoulder rest and carriage, toes on the ground. So I'm bringing them up. Now I may say, hey, students, we're now going to go on to hands on the platform, toes on the carriage. For you, those of you who think that's too much, or that I deem you do not have that shoulder organization, strength, and movement, I want you to stay there. I want you to stay on the floor, toes on the floor, hands on the carriage, and do that. Because there's no sense in trying to force a student to do something that they're not ready to do. So that's also another option. Or you can just say, hey, today we're going to do snake one, which is the first one I did. And that's what I call it. Everybody calls them different. That's snake one. This is snake two. I'm going to do 3 and 4. And then we can kind of go up to get to that high level. And finally, you can finish with snake with twist too, which we're not going to go into today. So here is the other option. After you've done 1 and 2, 3 is going to be here. And when I get my workbook done, I've completed my no springs. I've also completed athletic workbook. With the pandemic, all bets were off getting a photographer out here and getting that done. And I'm still in completion mode in volume 2 lower body. After I'm done with athletic lower body, I will do my progressive workbook 1. And that's going to show you all these different variations. How to do swan 1 through 10, how to do snake 1 through 10. And so it's kind of nice because you get to learn all the different options on how to progress it and vary it for the students that are in front of you. All right, so first setup, I'm going to put my foot in an angle, and then I'm going to press out. I'm going to put the other foot on top of it. So here's our thoracic extension and our fully abducted hip. I don't know if you're like that for me, but I get ab and ab wrong, even though I know what it is. I just say it wrong. So here's the option for snake with foot down. I'll show you camera side. Foot goes on at a slight angle, press out first to get it really supported. Get your upper body supported, right foot on. Go into your extension, abducted hip, and then up. Okay, so there's your snake 2. 2, 2.5, 3. I'll probably just call it 3, which is feet on the box. And if you follow me on social media, I did this. Boy, depends on when you watch this video. I did it early 2021. And I did the snake variation day 1, which was a high level. And then I did this variation. So it's kind of nice to see all the higher level exercises and then watch how I break them down to variations. So foot on the carriage. Now I'm going to show you foot on the top of the box. So for this one, make sure the foot is secure. I don't want that box sliding. Get yourself stable. Now you're going to notice right now my body weight is over my standing foot. But before I take the foot off the ground, I've got to take the body weight off. So then I'm going to shift my body weight onto my arms, bring the leg up. So there I'm starting in the abducted and extended, and then up. I'll show you camera side. Put the foot on, press it out first. Make sure your hands are not sweaty because you've done 100 of these. You can also, I've done this with wet palms, is I'll put a grip on each end of this platform. So again, As I mentioned on the other side, I'm going to start with my body weight on my right foot. Before I take it off, shift your body onto your arms, then bring it up. Okay, I'm going to start in that abducted and extended spine position, and then I pull up. So you can start to see how those options for positioning can change things. I have seen it done, hands on the foot bar, toes on, but to me that's kind of an elephant, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if you've ever done elephant in an oblique position, you can do, this is elephant. So you see how this is kind of a component of snake. You can also add the snake position, right, to this, and even go underhand. So you can also pattern that as an option. Let me show you the other way. So just know there's tons of options. I would probably, and I haven't really thought about how I'm going to do the book, but I would probably say 1 and 2 can be done, or so snake 1 here, snake 2 there. Snake 3 can be done hands on the extended platform or on the foot bar. I'll show you with the box. I think not everybody has the platform. Therefore, if you want to do this snake variation, it's also really low shoulder load too. I'll show you camera side first. Press it out. So this would be snake 3, hands on the foot bar. The other one would be snake 3, hands on the extended platform. Here it is, up. So you're getting more shoulder load. And up. So just a nice little option. I'll show you camera side with feet up. So definitely want to give those a try. Now, when you have completed on the floor in front, hands on the carriage, toes on the ground, hands either on the foot bar, extended platform, feet on the carriage, feet on, then you can flip it around and you can do the snake variation, starting to go into the traditional or classical sense. So I'm going to show you short box. I've got my foot on the extended platform on the edge for security purposes. Starting here, going up. So these are all wonderful options to teach your students. I'll show you the other direction. To teach your students how to, as I mentioned in the beginning, get more comfortable with a higher level exercise. Now you can pull all the way back. Once you've closed the carriage, you can pull all the way back too. There's a lot of different options, adding some arm press and pull back. But for variation purpose of getting to know the snake options, that's kind of how I would build it. Now I would go from toes on the platform to toes on the foot bar. With the box up, what it does is takes that shoulder load out, but you need to be very careful because the box does have some movement in it. When you start getting your feet on the foot bar, press it out. But for me, I actually love this one because as a man, I have a little broader shoulders. So this really allows me to get a wider base of support for my arms instead of having them so narrow. I'll show you camera side. Hands are secure, box is even. And then finally, it would be hands on shoulder rest, toes on foot bar, which I showed in the beginning, and I'm done. It's 20 minutes. I'm done showing you the variations, and I'm done. My body's like ready to move on. So try all of those different variations from the low level. Now, what I didn't show you is adding rotation variations. I'll save that for another day because some really great thread the needle combo variations. Add some hip work to the one on the floor, but that's a whole nother segment. I'll show you how to modify and add more options to some snake variations. Thanks for watching. I'm trying to think if I got everything. I think I did. I've tried them on the long box. This last one I'll show you. It's not my favorite, but the difference is my body height and shape and everything is different than everybody else's. So somebody might enjoy this one. I've done it with some of my students, but I leave it up to you whether you like it or not. I'm going to do right about there, two, a red and a blue. So I'm here and I pull back. Let me go out a little bit more. So the reason why I've got a red and a blue is my body mass. So I'm going to start here, extend the spine, abduct the hip, and go out. I can add some. Actually, I prefer to be here. If I'm going to not move at all, I would load the springs on and do it where I just did it. But here, the carriage, I'm going to block the carriage. Let me get to a point. There we go. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody's limb length, but the great thing is I can kind of hold that there, go up, push out, and flex or abduct. Back out, push, get the leg against, and then up. Out, let that pull me back in, push, and back up. So that's another option. Let me show you camera side. I'll add this in the book now that I'm thinking about it, but it definitely, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, but it feels okay. But I think you'll have to try this and then comment and let me know if you think it's worth putting in the book. And back and forth. Once my leg touches, I'm secure there and I can come up. It starts really helping with that extension portion. Maybe it's pretty low level because it's supported, but it also lets them find that lift and it helps facilitate that. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave me comments if you have any questions because every reformer height is a little different. Everybody's limb length is different, so it works for me, maybe a little bit different for you, but try these out and leave me a comment. And if you see something that worked differently for you, let me know. And I'll definitely, when I do the next series on snake with rotation variations, I'll definitely add your comment in so we can start working together more as a community here on my website. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to hearing your feedback on these different snake variations.